there, my name is Amanda and I have a new life in Christ, and this is Mindfully Amanda. I am in our greenhouse, and before you think I am a fancy pants or a homesteader, I am not. That is a lie. This is actually my sister's greenhouse, but my dad is the one who tends it most frequently. He is a gardener, and so is my sister, and he always wanted to be a farmer. But anyway, he is one in his spare time. But we are in the off season right now, as it is winter. Spring and summer are really big for growing crops, obviously, because the weather is warmer, and in spring there's more rain. In winter, everything is affected by the frost and the cold temperatures. So I really wanted to come in here though and show you guys there are some things that are still growing. Those are sweet potatoes down there that are going crazy. And this is a succulent that smells like mint, which I love. And we do have some bell peppers behind me as well. Look at them right there. But I wanted to come on here, and I've really just been thinking a lot about the idea of seasons recently, and how in the Bible, in Ecclesiastes, it says to everything there's a season and a time for everything under the sun. And for some reason, me personally, and I think our culture in Western civilization frequently promotes the idea that everything should always be in season. I mean, we can walk into a supermarket and in the middle of winter there are vibrant, beautiful, bright orange citrus fruits, or, cucumbers and radishes and pineapple, things where in our climate they would never grow at this time of year. So we've gotten used to the idea that everything should always be readily available, and there's no such thing as timetables or dormant seasons, right? However, that is so not true when it comes to actual nature. In fact, almost everything has a season of dormancy, or stillness and silence and non-productivity. And I wanted to really highlight that because there's so much pressure in our world, especially in Western civilization, to perform and perform and perform and produce and always have some kind of content or product or next big thing coming down the pipe, and for it to be a success right out the gate. And that's just not realistic. It's not helpful for people to feel that they have to measure up to that all the time. It's not sustainable mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or physically. And something that I really love to consider when I'm having a hard time saying no to things or pausing for rest is the fact that God, the creator of the world, took a breather. He was working on everything. It was turning out beautifully. He has all the skills that there ever were, all of the resources that he ever needed, and he created day and night, the earth and the sky, the water and the mountains, and all the creatures on the planet. And then on the seventh day he said, that's enough. I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm going to relax and let things be. Not every day is meant to be a day for creation or putting things out there and producing things. So I've really been considering that this year, and especially during times of transition or moving into a new year, a new month, a new season, that maybe not all of my days have to be spent on creating things for other people or doing in general, right? Because there's almost always plants in this greenhouse that are still growing, but right now there's not as many as there used to be. We used to have so many plants in here. All of these shelves were completely covered entirely with new sets of plants, new things that were growing and just going wild. But they can't do that all the time, and neither can us as humans. We as humans, goodness, grammar. But so often we pretend that we can, and I think that's one of the reasons why in our culture there is so many cases of burnout and people saying, I have had enough, I can't do this, I quit, or the other portion of saying, I'm a failure because I can't keep up with this pace, even though it's a pace that nobody should be able to keep up with in the first place. And I had a friend say to me one time, and she is brilliant and very wise, that there are types of plants that will bloom only once ever in their life. And just because they only bloom once, it doesn't make the bloom any less beautiful, or it doesn't take away from the value of that plant. Just sat with that and thought, oh my goodness, she's right. In fact, it probably makes the beauty of the bloom all the more fabulous and incredible because we waited, and it's such a rare thing that it makes it more valuable. So there are annuals out there, annual plants, and they do their thing and then they're done. They work hard to produce whatever, maybe it's a pumpkin or a squash or that sort of deal, and then they're finished, but they did their job. And I don't want this to turn morbid, like you do your one thing and that's it, you have nothing left to offer the world. Instead, I wanted to take off the pressure that we always have to have something else to offer, because maybe we're just good at certain things and we enjoy those things, and we don't have to be the masters of every other skill or good at all the things that everyone else is. And in this culture that really encourages comparison to other people and where they're at in life and what their life looks like and the things that they have that I don't, and so on and so forth, maybe taking time to remember and remind ourselves that just because one plant over here is blooming right now doesn't take away the capacity for another plant to bloom at a different time, in a different way, with different kinds of flowers, but it doesn't detract from the beauty of either one. And also, here's just a little reminder that plants cannot grow and thrive or even survive without the right kinds of nutrients. If they don't get water, if they don't get enough sunlight, if they don't get some fertilizer or a little extra boost, sometimes they die. They wind up wilting and shriveling up and saying, this is too much for me. And people are that way too. If we don't get a break, if we don't get downtime and rest and some peace and quiet sometimes, or we're not just consuming so much content from other people or putting our own self out there for other people, then we will dry up. We're not going to be able to create anything that resembles a bloom if we're just barely struggling to survive and hold on. So sometimes sunlight and water can look like a nice walk where you just get some exercise. Sometimes it can look like eating food that is nutritious for you versus the quick, fast answer of going through a drive-through. I can be guilty of that a lot. Sometimes it looks like meeting one-on-one with a friend to talk about life and have a conversation about something that matters. Sometimes it means going to counseling. Sometimes it means investing in your own health and seeing a doctor, or getting a massage, or going to a chiropractor. Holla at chiropractors, I love them. Sometimes it means saying no. I don't have the bandwidth to do that right now. Sometimes it means saying yes to things you wouldn't normally, or asking for help. That's a huge one. So the list can go on and on, but I just wanted to come on here and encourage myself and maybe some of you that if it feels like you're in a season of not a lot's going on the surface for other people to see and applaud or approve of, or you don't have a bunch of giant accomplishments that you can display on the shelf, that's okay. It won't always be that way, but the things that you do and accomplishments that you have are not what define you and are not what make you valuable. And I was just reading in Mark, I wish I remembered the reference now, but it's where Jesus tells a parable of a farmer planting a seed and he doesn't even know how it grows, but in the end it produces a crop and it's beyond what he could have even imagined. And then the next story he tells is of an acorn or a pine nut. Some translations tell it differently, but the seed is planted in the ground, and for a while it looks like nothing is going on at all. Nothing's gonna come out that little pine nut. It's disappeared and it's done for. But eventually it does sprout from the ground and it starts growing, and it's slow at first. It takes its time. Growing seasons are hard and they don't happen all at once. But lo and behold, one day that little pine nut becomes a massive tree. And I love this because Jesus says eagles nest in their branches. Just what a majestic picture. I mean, come on. He went from going something underground that nobody could see, that nobody knew was there, that didn't exist for anyone else to view or think, oh wow, look at that. And then something as beautiful and wild and free as an eagle gets to come and sit and rest in the branches of that tree. I just think is such a stunning image. Way to go, Jesus, for always giving us wonderful stories to think about and imagine. So let me know how you are trying to embrace rest this season. I would love to hear in the comments of things that you're doing for self-care and intentional slowing down. I love to drink tea. That's one of my soul care things. And sometimes I light a candle and read the Bible or spend time just sitting outside in quiet. It really ministers to me. So anyway, please tell me things that you're doing that make your soul feel restful and peaceful. Maybe I'll add some of them to my list. I love getting ideas from others. And also feel free to comment if you're like, this is hard for me. I don't know how to do that. It helps sometimes just be able to relate to other people. So this has been Mindfully Amanda, and thanks for checking in, and we'll catch you next time.